Hi, my name's Steve and welcome to the Seaside Allotment channel. And we're not at the allotment today, we're in the kitchen garden. I'm just going to do a quick zoom around there, and I'll also show you the very feeble remnants of what we've got in store and the few seedlings that we've got left here. And the kitchen garden for us is obviously it's a place for leisure primarily, and family and football games and all that sort of thing. But we also do like to grow a bit of veg here, and mainly we grow all the sort of basics that we need to put together a meal if we just can't be bothered to go down to the allotment. So yeah, I'll show you around, see what we're doing. So we'll start at the start, and this is my little kind of propagation corner, and the bench is stood on well, basically screws, which are in these little pools of water, sources of water, and the hope is that will prevent slugs. I do have to keep reminding myself to make sure that these are pulled back from the wall there, so the slugs don't get in that way. And so what have I got here? Well, I've got these are basically my spare brassicas. So I've got some really lovely rhubarb sprouts, some just ordinary sprouts, some kales, some curly kale, dazzling blue kale, some other sprouts, that tiny little thing there, and a couple of calabrese, and then some more sprouts and some more curly kale, some golden purslane, some ginger which is not sprouted, some spare sweet corns which are ready for planting now. And then these are my spare tomato plants. Everything else is in the ground, but I've got so many spares that it's worth just taking a risk on putting them in the ground at this stage. Yeah, because they're getting quite leggy. I've got some beetroot there, and that's pretty much it in the little growing area. So then wrapping around the little propagation area, I've got my trailing tomatoes, tumbling tom reds and yellows. Got a blackberry up there, it goes on that upper wire as well, up there, and more trailing tomatoes, another blackberry just peeking up around there, my leeks for the allotment, a couple of newly grafted little trees. I grafted those last year. One of these has got some sort of leaf disease, but I'll deal with that later. And can you see me? This is a kind of experimental technique that I'm trying out to grow early tomatoes. We've actually been harvesting tomatoes off these plants for well over a month now, and yeah, it's been an interesting experiment. And then on the rest, the patio, we've got, these are the potatoes. I think this is my 6th succession of potatoes, so obviously they're ready for harvest now. I've got one more succession in the polytunnel on the allotment, and then we're on to this next succession here, and then that succession there, and then we move on to the main crops. So this is the main garden, and this is our main planting area. So here I've got my outdoor tomatoes. They're all blight resistant apart from the Amish paste, but anyway, I wanted to give those a try. And then I've got colettes at the back here, and we've got a little bit of slug damage here, so you'll probably see some of those organic environmentally friendly slug pellets lying around. And we've got some, what's this one called, red Russian kale, and then two more colettes at the back there, and then a curly kale there, and then a grapevine along the wall there. And then this is one of the most useful beds that we have, carrot bed. We harvest from this probably from about September through till November, December time. We don't eat a vast quantity of carrots, Of course we've got carrot beds on the allotment as well. All these little pegs are just to keep the cats off, and they also keep the fleece off the young carrots, but no fleece on here at the moment because we're inspecting it for weeds. One of my many cherry trees. And then we've got this chard bed here, which will eventually replace that straggly chard bed there. We've got one more chard bed on the allotment. This will eventually, well actually by the middle of June, be cleared and planted up with golden beetroot. But this chard bed does actually have chard in it. Tiny little seedlings, I don't know whether you can just see them. But it also has this extremely annoying weed, and we got that weed because we bought some horse manure, and it was really well rotted. It looked really great. We got it from Home Bargains, but it was full of that weed, and now all these beds are full of that weed. Very annoying. And then at the back there we've got a couple of tomatoes and 3 different types of kale. There's a dazzling blue and 2 curly kales, and for symmetry's sake I really do need to put another dazzling blue in there, and I just don't think I had one when I planted that up, but I've actually got one now, so yep, one will be going in there. And I've got some more red Russian kale, another dazzling blue, and I think that's probably, it does look like a sprout, but I think it might be a tender stem broccoli, and it's that label there that says tender stem on it that makes me think that might be the case. And then a very straggly looking perennial kale. We did have a beautiful perennial kale tree there that was, you can see the size of that post, it was right up, much bigger than that, right up to the top of that shed there. Basically a kale tree, and that was one of the cuttings that we took off it. It doesn't look very good at the moment, but it will look amazing in 2 or 3 months' time if the caterpillars don't get it, that is. This is our sort of out of the way storage area. We've got our water here, which takes water from that garage roof, so we get a lot of water in there, and that's the water that we use to water all of these potatoes and all of these blueberries and potatoes, of which we have a fairly decent amount there. There's some more potatoes there, and these are also cuttings from that kale plant, and you can see how wonderfully they grow, and they will need a bit of work to keep them in check, but they grow pretty well there. And I've got some more cuttings there which look pretty grotty at the moment, but hopefully they'll pull through. And some more kales, some lovely hosta bed, and yet another one of these perennial kale cuttings to give away at the open day. And we've got a composting area, and then all these containers here, these have all got carrots in them, all over there and all down there, and those are baby carrots for winter salads. And what have we got here? Strawberries and more strawberries, and then raspberries across the back. Basically got blueberries around here, and another cherry tree. This cherry tree looks really nice, apart from this horrible black mite or whatever it is on here. It's a bit small for black fly. It might be just be black fly, but yeah, I've been spraying it to try and get rid, but it's quite persistent. But this is its first flowering season, and I'm pretty pleased with it. It's going to be a lovely tree if we can only control this black fly. And yet more cuttings of the perennial kale for open day. So if any of you do come along to our open day and you want a perennial kale, let me know, and I'll make sure that we get some. So then this is the side drive, and yet more cherry trees. lovely crop off these. And I've just planted one of my grafted trees, so I'm really pleased with that. The graft's not very good, but the tree looks quite nice. And there's loads more cherry trees, but then we've also got this pear tree, so Williams pear tree, and there's a fantastic crop of pears on it. It's really nice to have all this fruit at home, perfect for snacking. And I've got some gooseberry cuttings, because one of the berries that we don't really have at home is gooseberries, so we've got some cuttings home from the allotment, and so hopefully I'll have a nice little patch of gooseberries here soon. And then inside we've just got a couple of sweet potato slips from Jerry Grow Seed, and we've got a ginger plant here, and hopefully this is the start of something big with ginger. Hopefully from that root many ginger plants will grow next year. We've got some stevia plants that will be going to the allotment soon. We might keep one here as well actually. So I did promise to show you the store. So rather unimpressive selection of onions there. A few more onions there. Quite a few lots that have basically had it, but there's still some decent ones in there. And you can see that Debbie's been away for a week or so, so those have kind of sprung to life since then. So we've got our beetroot store. We've got a few of these containers left. They're all partly full. I'll just pull one out. Let's have a look. See what it's like. There we go. So that's pretty nice. Nice and firm. Good condition. Nice golden beetroot. Just get that replanted. We've got just a few potatoes in there, and we've got such lovely potatoes on fresh potatoes that these have only really been used for baking potatoes, and you know, when we don't really care. We've still got a bit of dried apple, and actually a reasonable selection of preserves. So I don't know, we'll probably run out before we have enough fresh food to start replenishing it, but we'll do better next year. So there we go. That's an overview of the kitchen garden. And I have enough for gardening now. I'm going to sit and read a book. See you soon.